So man, people just love like just chilling in the library.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know the main reason is probably
Fountain back there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm.
found back there.
Yeah.
Who was it? You or was it you?
You know, this is my best friend, so I'm gonna say it was a group decision.
Is it
Group decision.
Group decision.
Okay.
Let's just say we were looking for a fountain,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a fountain. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He told me what he wanted, and you know, this is what lined up with the visit.
You made it happen. This
This is what.
But 2 years later,
that's pure
2 years
love right
later,
there,
2
man.
years later, you know, that's one of the awesome parts of having a friend, right? They know what you need better than you know what you need for yourselves. I was more than willing to go down to Home Depot and just
Wow.
get the largest version available, maybe multiple if
Yeah.
it took. That's what it took.
okay.
However,
That's why we have the gifts of Mr. Alan Greene.
yes, sir.
Man, that's true love. That's true love right there. Talk about relationships. Man, hey, well, welcome you guys to the Blueprint Leadership Podcast. I'm here with Pastor Brian Poe. I see you, Pastor Lamar Mills, our campus pastor. And, oh man, we have our man, Mr. Alan Greene from Envision here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, every time I hear this fountain, every time I come in this room, I think
right.
about you, man. I think about you.
Wow, what an honor. What an honor.
Right? Exactly. It's just, it's so great to have you here today because our discussions have been centered around Pastor Brian's sermon series on Till Death Do Us Part. And our focus for this year is being built to last. So when we looking around this room just reminds us of those things and how important relationships are. But before we get too deep into the conversation, just tell everybody a little bit about Envision, who you guys are, and what you do.
Well, first, thank you for having me. Envision, we're a commercial construction company. Me and my family started this company back in 2009, right here in Tampa. I was born and raised here. We started actually in residential, and about 6 years ago, we kind of ventured into commercial, and today we have some great partners, built great relationships in the city. We're working on some amazing projects. Some of our major clients are USF, Tampa International Airport, Hillsborough County Schools, and we're a relationship and people-driven, organization. Our goal and our responsibility is to build people and build, people in this community. So that's through construction.
Man,
So
that's really awesome because I know when you rolled out the series, and you said our focus was going to be on commitment to purpose and commitment to people. And that seems like just the center of everything that you guys have built your organization around.
Yes, sir.
How is there anything in particular that's jumped out at you that's coming from the message these last few weeks about that focus and how it relates to what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking a lot about times and seasons, and how in winter, we get excited about the boots, the coats, the sweaters, all that stuff, and then now in summer, we're excited about the grass, we're excited about the beach.
Oh yeah.
We're excited about all those fun things. And
The rain and saving water bills.
there you
Got
go,
that part.
saving water bill. Water bill, it's up there right now.
Right.
And just thinking about times and seasons in my life and in our business as well, it's just amazing how what started out as, two people, my dad and myself, looking to, at one point, we didn't know why we were, we thought we just wanted to make money.
Okay.
And literally that was our goal. Like, we're just going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, then I'm thinking about the transition of, me being introduced to Pastor Brian and Revealing Truth Ministries, and that season of truth where it was like, no, like, you got to have purpose.
Something
You gotta
beyond that. Wow.
You got to have order.
Wow.
You got to have something that matters. And that's where we literally just stopped what we were doing and our focus of just making money. And it was like, no, we have to build people. We got to build something bigger than us.
Yeah.
Something that's going to last the test. You talk about being built to last. Something that's going to last the test of time. And that's when we literally just retooled. And now, because we were focused on building more than just us, it became all about the team and all about the individuals we could bring in, the who's that we could bring in to add value to what God was building.
Okay.
And, you know.
Now that's interesting when you mentioned bringing in people, right? Because during the course of the messages, you made a statement. One of your truth theories, I believe, was we have to stop seeing people as resources,
Right.
and start seeing them as answers to prayer.
Yeah, stop seeing people as resources to the solutions and the goals we have, and start seeing them as answers to the prayers we pray.
There you go.
Sir.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's the long version before the editing team chopped it up. I'm pretty sure it was shorter when you saw it. But that's the fullness.
That's
of
the
it, right?
full version. Okay.
You know, and it does. What does that do? You know, and when I hear Alan talk about how they had to shift from money to people, is it truly does make quit hard. You know, if it's about money, if it's about a goal, if it's about something natural or something that just is superficial. Either once that goal is achieved, you don't know what to do next, or once that superficial thing has lost value, you don't have the passion to go to work every day.
That's good.
Right.
And so when you start to put people involved in your process, you always see not just quitting as you stopping, but you literally letting the people you love down. And there's something that, this is fresh,
Yeah.
there's something that I believe is just culturally just wrong right now, right? And it's just this, right? That I've never tried to be so much of me that I actually don't meet the expectations of the people I've been called to love. You know, I seen just this drive in culture right now where people, it's all about me, my achievement, what I'm getting. But I'm like, that's so wrong, right? That's so wrong, because if me being me makes me a person who's less than what the people around me deserve, then that's not good at all, right? Rashida deserves a good husband. Pastor Lamar deserves a good brother in Christ, right? Just thinking about what the people around you deserve often gives you the weight you need not to quit. But as long as it's about you, you'll easily let yourself down. You'll easily quit on yourself. And so I love, like, say what Alan was saying about how they have to stop, right, and make it bigger than them. You know, see people as, man, these people are counting on us. You know,
and that's powerful. And if you didn't see some of the other episodes, again, one of our foundational purposes for this series, again, was to make quit hard. So I'm glad you bring that back. But making that transition, and you said it was you and your dad, make as much money as we can make, right? So first, I mean, what's the size of your company right now?
So right now, we have about 43 employees.
Wow.
And mind you, like I said, me and my dad started this business in 2009. And up until 2012, it was just us. I mean, so.
And then to think of, I mean, two of you guys, you rolling along, you know, like what, 3 years and things are growing. Making that transition though to how did you go? I mean, and it sounds great when you say it, you know, but to go from you and I, we doing this thing and, you know, we looking at the books and things are working, but to make that transition to understand that, okay, more and more people now are, you know, to your point, I'm accountable to these people. I'm responsible to these people. Was that a difficult transition for you guys? And even, again, there's two of you, so you guys have to be in agreement about how this thing grows. You know, how was that transition?
100%. It wasn't easy. It was an investment. And there was years, you know, where we literally had to take a step back and look at, okay, how much are we making? You know, and there was months on end where, you know, we didn't get a paycheck. But we knew why. It wasn't just we were getting a paycheck, but we were investing in others so that we could build something bigger.
And that goes back to what you said earlier. You couldn't just be focused on money. You had to start focusing on purpose.
Exactly. And we couldn't focus on ourselves. We had to focus on others and focus on the future, focus on the business. And, you know, it took years and it took a lot of hard work. And it also took us showing our wives, you know, that vision as well, because without them, it wouldn't work. Because we had to rely on our wives' income to even, you know, pay our bills.
Well, so that reminds me of another thing you said. When pressure and purpose
Are in the same
room, quit is going to be in that room. You talk about that pressure before we even get to the company. You're talking about the pressure of your family, right? And them understanding right now in this season, as you said, you know, we're not even drawing a paycheck here right now. So I'm sure that there were times during that season, or at least trying to make that transition, where you probably had doubt of whether this transition was going to happen or whether this was the way to go, you know.
Yes.
Pressure and purpose is in the same room at that point. Were there seasons where it seemed like quitting or not going this route was more beneficial?
Many times. Many times. And, you know, it came from both inward, you know, from myself, looking at myself in the mirror and saying, like, what am I, like, why?
What am I doing right now?
And then it also came from the outside. And I'll say that, you know, without trusting God, like, we wouldn't be here. Because it's easy to quit in those moments where nothing is lining up from the outside. It doesn't look like this is favorable.
Yeah.
The you know, something that Pastor Brian said, you know, when it's a smart decision on paper to quit, you know, sometimes it's an intelligent decision even. You know, it's easy to quit.
Yeah.
But something within you, you know, the God in you, the trust, your trust and your faith has to step up in that moment and say, like, no, I know what I heard. And there was many moments where, no, it was like, I know what I heard.
Yeah.
And those are conversations with, you know, my wife. Those are conversations with, you know, a lot of, like, I know what I heard.
Yeah.
And I think because it's going up against, you know, when pressure and purpose are in the same room, like, why is quit there? And it's because it's going up against what you have been taught by the world or conditioned by cultures to think is that purpose unlocks my success. And what I found is not right away.
That's good.
Right.
Right.
And so, but many people think that they're not successful in life simply because they haven't discovered their purpose.
Right.
When just between me and you.
Oh yeah.
You can know your purpose, but if you lack work ethic, it doesn't matter if you know it.
No.
Right.
But yet, still, the automatic thought is, if I discover my purpose,
Then
everything about life will then be easy.
Yeah.
And that's why when you're like, man, I'm in my place of purpose, however, I'm not successful, it's like contradicting everything you thought should be happening. And that's why quit is in the room. It's like, man, like I thought if I found what I'm supposed to do, it would work.
Right.
And oftentimes, not at first.
Takes more than that.
You know,
Right.
That's that programming you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're programmed to, and I think you alluded to it, make rational decisions, right?
Yeah, make
You're
rational
sitting down and doing the formula, and then I get to where my threshold is. Rationally, everything says it's time to quit this now.
Right.
Because this ain't adding up, this ain't lining up, you know, it's my purpose, everything's supposed to be good at this
supposed to be
point.
good.
Right.
I'm seeing all kinds of things happening, and so it must be time
I'm
to
not
go.
supposed to be challenged in my place of purpose.
There you go.
I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to be bothered.
Right.
Bump a challenge.
Right.
I'm not even supposed to be bothered.
Right.
And
It's supposed to be easy.
Even the people supposed to just come.
the people
right
supposed to
people
just come.
supposed to just-
People supposed to come. They supposed to act right.
Right.
And of course, we laugh about it all the time. We're looking at the story of Joseph, right? That the first time he exercised his gift is when it put him in the pit.
Right.
True.
Like the first time he exercised his gift, the brother got put in the pit.
Right. Right.
So, Alan, I want to hear you talk more about when you all transition from focusing on, we just want to build a business, make some money, to, no, this is supposed to be for purpose and people. Like, immediately, what did that do with the way that you saw the relationships that you already had? You talk about your wives, your wife, your father's wife, how they were involved. What the decision to switch, what mindset had to come with that? Like,
yeah, it was a combination of, like you said, mindset and also just principles. We had to look at, what principles are we standing on? And, talking through it, with our wives first.
Right.
That was kind of like that initial deal, because it was like, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do what we do. Are you okay with it?
That's good.
And then when it comes to just relationships with people, with our friends, our family, it's like my sister. At one point we brought my sister in to the fold and explained what we were doing with her. So it became less of just a tactical approach to business to now like, no, we want to get the right people. We can build with these people. And along the way, God began to bring those people, and
So I love that because, I'm big on buy-in, right? Especially when you're sharing vision and purpose. But also a lot of, we have a lot of business owners in the audience. And so oftentimes you can get a business strategy. You can copy a business strategy that's worked for somebody else, right? And you talk about, A plus B plus C equals D, and then E is where we're trying to get to. But oftentimes those conversations, those challenges aren't discussed within the course of that strategy. We all agree and adapt this strategy, but don't necessarily talk about the challenges that are going to come along the way, which should be evident, right? When you tell your wife, this is what we're going to do,
but then what?
And you're not prepared to answer, she's like, well, where's the money going to come from?
What business plan do you look at that says that that's how you deal with people? I mean, there is no standard business plan that involves relationship, right? So that kind of takes you off the beaten trail.
Yeah.
Right.
And it also is a huge moment of, it takes lesson. You got to lessen yourself. It takes you out of the picture because, as a man, as whatever you want to call it, a leader, a husband, a man, you want to be a provider. You believe your job is to be a provider for your family, and when you can't, make enough money to fuel a vehicle, or you can't make enough money to put a sandwich on the table, what does that feel like? What?
I got a question for you. How often at that stage did you say something like, this is what I believe God wanted me to do, or this is what God has put in our hearts to do? Many
times. There's many conversations, many tears shed, many moments of filling out job applications, just for the doubt that I had in what I heard, in those moments. And and you talk about work ethic. Anybody that knows me, I believe I got my work ethic from my parents. I mean, they're hard workers. I mean, as a kid, I worked. Like when kids were out playing, like I worked. When I was in school, people were eating lunch, I was in the bathroom cutting hair. And so I always had a work ethic, so it was even harder for me to put me and my mentality and my work ethic aside and just say, no, like this is the season I'm in. And I'm gonna go through this season with confidence, with, renewing my mind constantly and just to see what God has in store.
Go ahead.
And I just love that, right? And I really want to just kind of bring that conversation just around, because you have something that we all want to happen but don't necessarily like to experience, is we all want God to prepare us for where we're going. And
that's good.
The thing about it is, and I love when you always talk about buy-in. I see buy-in as, the weight necessary to survive what you'll have to go through. Seeing buy-in and seeing it as like that anchor that just drops down into the ground so the boat can withstand the storms for the night, right? And it's like, that's what you experience, right? That's what you experience at first. And I just, there's almost zero stories I see, right, where people didn't have, especially initiating something, and I would say even transitioning into something new, where there's a season where weight is developed, buy-ins develop, and you are, we said, how are you going to be built to last if you don't know what you've been built to do, and to know what you've been built to do, look back over what you went through, because if God's building for you for what's next, then he's built you for what's now. And so it's like, as much as we don't enjoy that moment, we will all say that we know we even need that moment.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I just think it's just a great moment of clarity for people to just be like, we've all felt it, because you might be feeling it and wondering, is this identification marks for me to quit? No, like it's wait season.
I love that, wait season.
It's buy-in season. Like, do you believe what's coming out your mouth? Because if you can believe it now, then trusting it later is going to be a walk in the park, right? Like if you cannot walk away from it now, then you won't walk away from it later, right? Once you have this much weight, right? There's just a level of commitment to completing that if you did not have that, it would not be present.
Yeah, that's good.
How does it help you revalue the relationships that you have? I think when you go through that season, you have to repurpose your. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're describing a moment where you even had to repurpose your marriage. So when we were heading in this direction, I could see me doing this. I'm doing this, you do what you do, and we'll be fine. But when you repurpose your business, it was also repurposing your relationships, and it was like, I can't do this without you. So 12 years later, almost, right? 12 years later, how do you apply that now with the people that you bring on, or the people who work with you?
Yeah, I mean, the relationships that, we kind of call it Team 300 now. We have a core, it's kind of like a core group of folks that, this is our team. This is almost our beginning. And we nurture those relationships, and we let them know like, what they mean to this team. We let them know that, no, this is the beginning of something that is gonna be amazing. It's gonna be great. And this is your part in it. This is what we believe your part in it is.
Right.
And giving them the tools and giving them the support that they need to just keep growing and building together.
See, one of the things I've seen what I think trips people up, right, when it comes to, especially when it comes to quitting, getting to that point where they think it's time to quit is, in the best case scenario, especially from a business standpoint, you can be great at explaining your what. This is what we do. And to your point, good ones then move into this is why we do it. You talk about purpose and value. But I think where a lot of people face quit, the unexpected comes into how. Because we don't talk about ahead of time, how are we going to get there? We paint this glorious picture of what this is, and this is why we do it, but how do we get there? Like when you mentioned, okay, during this season, just at home, during this season, we're going to be on my wife's salary until this thing turns around. That's a how that can come up and just rock the whole thing if you're not in agreement with it. So from a business standpoint, is that a part of your strategy as when you're talking to people, especially now with a staff, with a crew like you have, that you actually have to make sure that they stay locked in with how things are going to be, so they're not surprised when something don't look like they think it should look.
And that's where our goal is always start with why. We start with why. And I believe most of the times when you start with why, in those moments where the how gets shaky or the how gets iffy, it's like, okay, we have something to go back to. Let's go back to, forget about that. Let's go back to why we're here, why we're starting.
And I want to talk about that, right? Because I've had some conversations with Mr. Greene, right? And I know how great that sounds. But it's like, you go through and do everything that is correct by procedures. But at the end of the day, what always becomes the turning point is a eye to eye, man to woman, woman to woman, woman to man, whatever the combination is. Do you believe or not?
Right. Yeah.
Like, do you believe or not?
Yeah.
Because you can go through all which you should. And I believe what is like just galvanized, what I believe is fortified, that every businessman, every businesswoman has within them is when their back's against the wall, they've already been through a process that's like, I do believe.
Right.
I do believe. Right. And I'll do whatever because I believe. Like, I'll break the quote, not see Pastor Mark, right? Just I'll break the normal code of ethics.
Yeah. Right.
I know man's supposed to be the provider, but I believe. So right now, you are the provider, right?
Right.
And I think about it because, I just think about I think Jesus happens to have the greatest amount of followers of all time. He's I told you, he's the greatest influencer of all time, right? But he started by saying this. I'm gonna make you fishers of men, right? Like, you know how to fish, but I'm gonna make you fishers of men. I'm gonna change your whole profession. I'm gonna change your whole profession. Let's go, right? Like, but there was just a level of belief that, and this is the reason why I'm saying this, right? I'm throwing another curveball in here, right? Because a lot of people try to skate that moment, where it's like there's people in your circle who don't believe.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you think that you can, through procedures, get them to believe.
Correct.
But it all, like, you can't procedure somebody into belief.
Right.
And that moment, right? Talk about that moment where it's like you done went through the procedures with somebody. You done gave them the business model, the business plan, everything.
Yeah.
And then you just have to look them in the eye and be like, do you believe or not? Like talk about some of those moments, right?
Yeah, because like you said, challenges are coming.
Yeah.
We're going to be faced with obstacles, challenges, circumstances that aren't favorable. And there's going to be moments of question.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand why you're here, if you don't understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, like you said, do you believe? Do you believe what we're doing is valuable to you and valuable to who we're reaching? If you can't answer that question with a yes, then most of the time you're not going to last. You're not going to last the test of time. You're not going to last the tests that are coming. And something that Pastor Brian was saying earlier about just that preparation. I just truly believe that people, even on our team, we have to constantly remind people like there's moments, there's seasons of preparation, and literally like. You need to be hidden. You need to be. There's things that you got to go through to prepare you for where you're headed. If I didn't go through the things that I went through, if we didn't go through the things that we went through, I wouldn't be prepared to sit where I sit now. I wouldn't be prepared to do what I do today. Period. 100%.
Right.
And so I say all that to say, like people have to understand like the why. Why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. You have to believe what we're up against, what we're doing.
Let me throw this right. Would you say that the goal, of all of that, would you say it was more mental competency, like, or was it heart connection? Like, it wasn't that I learned more, is that my heart got connected more to what I was called to do, right? It was information, but the fruit of the information was to get my heart connected in a way that if it was just my mind learning something, my mind could quit based upon what it was analyzing. But my mind, what gets me from quitting is my mind keeps bumping up against a heart that's still committed. Right?
It sounds like the way that you're describing it is you kind of let people do that work for themselves. Like you hire them, but it's like this person, you have to know your why. Like I can't give you that. You have to know your why.
Right.
This is why we do what we do. I'm going to give you this information, and then you respond whether or not it connects to you.
Right.
Right. The fruit of it is not you just knowing it. I was hoping at some point your heart got connected to it.
Right.
Right.
Right, because what happens is we go, if you just knew it,
Right.
when we meet that moment,
Right.
quit happens.
What pressure and purpose?
Right.
Like, bro,
I'm
I
taking
was
quit.
going through all of this so that your heart was connected to it.
Right.
And it you know,
That's good.
and like even from, you know, I know Ariana, she's
Wow.
all in, right?
Yeah.
She's all in. Her heart is connected. And it's like, it was, 100% going through giving people every opportunity through direction, through casting vision, right? Through giving people all the, understand, you give people all the adequate opportunities and information they need, not so they just learn something, but so that their heart can be committed to something. And they need that stuff.
Have to.
And as owner, I mean, how do you even go about maintaining that? Because again, I know they're dealing with what they're dealing with as they go out in the field or whatever, but they face challenges, stuff is going to rise up, they're going to face quit moments. How do you make sure that stays the undertow, the undercurrent of the business?
It's an ever-evolving thing, you know, and as we're growing, you know, we're still learning. Truthfully, you know, we're learning on the job.
Yeah.
And we constantly have to be open and, you know, gaining clarity,
Okay.
you know, as to how to handle these situations. But today, you know, we do it quarterly, and, you know, we have we're setting up quarterly meetings, you know, with all of our staff, implementing and showing them the vision, keeping it in front of them.
Do you have corporate values? Like you do?
Yep.
Okay.
Corporate values, pillars, and
Right.
all that stuff.
Do you see, or how aligned do you see your corporate values with the values that you all live out at home?
They 100%. And when they're not in alignment, we you know, got to talk about it and, you know, get them in alignment. But it has to, if you're not living it, you know, day in and day out, it's hard. If you're not doing it at home, you're not going to do it at work. You know, you have to be living it at home first. It starts at home.
And I think, you know, why are those two? Why are those two always connected, right? And I want to just help somebody who maybe has had some challenges developing values. One of the principles I've found from developing values that just makes them so clear is you identify what you value by what bothers you when it doesn't happen. Like what bothers you when it doesn't happen. And the reason why your value shouldn't be different from your business to where you are at home, because what bothers you should be the same.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of people's like, what do I value? Okay, that could be a difficult question. What bothers you when it doesn't happen? That shows that you value that thing happening. And there should be a marriage, right? Because walking out your value should be natural and not mechanical, and that's what we're saying, right? No one walks around like with their value set, right? And I'm gonna tell you, you have a not so efficient employee is if they have to reference the values to know the values, right? They were almost of the conversation. They were given so that a deposit in your heart would be made, right? Like no one.
That's good.
Like, you know, that's the whole point, right? I'm not going down that trail, but why the law had to be given spiritually, right? Because no one could, like, if you had to reference it to do it, you couldn't. It was impossible. True. It had to become eternal. And that's what it says, right? It's just easy, right? And that's why those two should match up, because what bothers you lets you know what you value. You know, and your value should be shaped around things that you can live and you freely experience. Now, you got a good one, and it's about confidence. You know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it definitely does, right? You have a value around clarity and confidence that I believe.
Tell us, man.
I believe it's a home run.
Okay, it's not a secret anymore. So what is it?
I want him to expound on what he's saying. But you know, I believe that clarity breeds confidence.
Boom.
And you know,
Yeah,
you have to be clear in your vision, clear in your focus, and clear in your understanding to be confident.
Yeah.
You know, there's meetings, there's things that, you know, we have to walk into where it's like, I may not be the smartest, I may not be the most intelligent, but you're not going to be more prepared than me.
Clear, right.
You're not going to be more clear than me. And because of that clarity, I can be confident, you know, in what I know and what I believe.
Right.
You know, and I believe that.
What book did you get that out of?
I don't think he wrote that.
I don't know.
That's a lot.
No, it was so good. It was so good. I was like, oh man, it's good.
He wrote that.
Then of course y'all know me.
Oh man.
I had my own little twist to it, right? Because then I realized, and we were talking about it, right, that one of the greatest detriments to clarity is the fact that people think it's a one-way street. And every meeting should be set up with this in mind. We're going to fight for clarity.
Correct.
Right? When a meeting is had in your business and people leave, right, it means that there was questions they had that they didn't feel free to answer.
Yeah.
Trust me, like 99% of all business owners and leaders don't go into a meeting with the objective of confusing people.
Right.
Yeah, right.
They went there in order to communicate a thing. Don't allow their weakness to be able to communicate it to be the reason why clarity wasn't given. You have to fight for clarity. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
You know, you have to fight for it because without the clarity, there can be no confidence.
Right. And I'm just imagining even at home, you know, conversations I have at home with my wife, my daughter, trying to reach that same clarity, being that it's a two-way street in our communication. Me not going in or slowing myself down from going in, thinking that because it's clear in my mind and I'm telling you, then it's going to be clear in your mind. Too,
That's a good,
right?
That's a good.
But allowing that same space for us to fight for clarity.
And I tell you all the time, right, we got to realize this, give everybody a card, right? And you know this, communication is a gift. Yet we're all charged with the responsibility of communicating something.
Correct. Correct.
But communication is a gift. And I think sometimes people forget that. And they think it's some natural thing that just happens. No,
it's not.
Just, people have to be trained and equipped in the skill of communication. That's why I say it has to be a two-way street.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. It has to be an intentional goal, whether it's at home, you know, or at the office. You know, you have an agenda. The check should be at the end. What are you leaving this table with? Because you're right, it's that important. It's absolutely that important. One of the things I was reminded of when you were talking, and we were talking about just the consistency of the values and how you approach things. I know a lot of small business owners face probably their greatest challenges when they grow. You know, or the prospect of growing, and just seeing how you guys are growing is really, really amazing. But I was reminded as you talking about values of you taught about Daniel, right? And Daniel faced a situation where, you know, king had basically made a rule and said, hey, ain't no praying going on to nobody but me, right? So how I see it relating here is he was in a situation where all of his values, everything that he believed in was on the line. And so when I see business owners face growth prospects, you know, a lot of times there are things that challenge their beliefs. There may be relationships that look profitable, but, you know, how do you face that situation and still keep everything in line with your values, with your purpose, with who you are? Because everything that comes at you is not going to be something that lines up with who you are. You know, how do you face those situations but still be able to produce growth within your company?
You got to have something to come back to always. And that's kind of how I see it. It's almost like a thermostat. It's like, you know, if I set the thermostat to 75, you know, it's going to go, the temperature may be at 70 sometimes, maybe it'll go up to 78. But, you know, having God in my life at the center, that's my set point. And so, like you said, when those challenges come and that thermostat get off, I always have somewhere to come back to. And that renewal is constant, you know, because there's huge challenges that you're going to face. And if you don't have a place, not the only difference between me and somebody that isn't a believer, they don't have a place to come back to.
Right.
And that's my safe place because, believe me, there are many moments where I get off.
See, and that's the reason why we have these conversations. You know, we want people to understand that we are taking this word that God is sharing with us, but it's real. It is real life.
Right.
You see a company like you who, you know, it's easy to say, yes, I know who Alan is as a person. You know, his family is all tied into the same values. But you see a company now that has projects at the airport. I mean, projects downtown. I mean, the growth in Envision is just astounding. But you can still grow a business. You can still see this kind of prosperity and not compromise who you are, your values, your beliefs, and all that.
100%.
That's what I want people to see.
Oh,
and
100%.
if you could just talk about
good,
that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean,
Good, D.
and along the way, there's so many opportunities to do just that, to compromise your integrity, to get into, you know, deals that compromise who you are as a person and a believer, to make the money, to get those tangible things. I mean, there's deals that we could have been a part of that really would have financially took us to a place way beyond where we are today.
Right.
But because it didn't line up with our principles and who we are and our relationships, no, like that's our safe place to come back to.
Right.
You know, when we make a decision, it's like, okay, we got to go back to our safe place in order to make this decision. Not just looking at, you know, the finances, not just looking at, you know, how's it going to benefit us tangibly, but no, those intangibles that we believe in, they're extremely important.
Yeah. So even when the accountant, when the numbers, when the community leaders, everybody's saying this is the thing for you.
Oh yeah.
But you being solid in your values and your belief
100%.
has to take precedence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. But still, to be able to see just the stuff they're doing. I mean, the evidence is there.
But I think one of the most like impressive things, right, of all of that, which that's where just maintaining that over and over and over again, the fruit you see is something that is really special, which we talk about Alan, of course, with his father. But what many people don't know is Ariana and her mother also worked there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so you have two sets, right? His parents working there together.
That's good.
Right. There was so much developed trust over time.
Right.
That now the same, which she know, right? The same Alan's wife, Ariana, who her mother, who saw like this boy, right? Can't even pay his bills, right? What are you doing?
Yeah.
But now that same mother is working for this company.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Because in season and out of season, living by the values. Living by the values.
Yeah.
And I believe that's just the
powerful.
fruit that speaks for itself, you know, of what's really important here. You know, and the things that, you know, I'm not gonna tell his personal business, but right, that that a company that I know he would tell you that's worth more than any check.
Yeah.
You know, and worth more than any check.
That's
You
awesome.
see, I don't know how these terms are defined, but is Envision a family business?
Yes, it is. It is a family business.
Yeah.
And like you said, me and my dad started the company, but then, like you said, my wife works for the company. My mother-in-law works for the company, and then our church, a lot of our church family work for the company.
Exactly. Which is good, and I'd love for you to wrap it up right there, because it's obviously not just money. It's not just prestige. When you look at Envision at this point, what, 12 years later, what is it that is actually being built to last?
We didn't, like I said, we didn't start Envision to be famous or to be popular. You know, we started it to be effective. And, you know, what is making it, can you repeat?
Or what is it, when you look back, you know, I'm sure, just because I know you, but I want you to voice it. When you look back, you're not going to look at how much money you made. You're not going to look at, you know, oh man, did you see that building down there? When you look back at what Envision's been able to accomplish and what it's going to do, what would stand out in saying, that's what God was doing. That's what was being built to last through all this.
The legacy of my children's children, you know, challenging the standards in the construction industry, and you know, being the light in this industry, because truthfully, just learning it and understanding it now, it's a dark place, and we're able to be a light, you know, in that industry with the people in that industry and changing lives, you know, one life at a time.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think, Deke, though, you know, just understanding this is so important. I think understanding where you are in that generational build is where you look back and can say, you know, that was the win we were supposed to get for this generational thing. And it takes identifying where you were. I think that Alan is very aware that this is the beginning.
Right.
And in the beginning, as that first, you have to prove that the values stand the test of time.
Yes.
For him to be able to pass it to Alan or pass it to Ava, you know, with confidence, there had to be a proving of the values he's giving. And so that means that as the first, you almost have to watch it go through starvation and watch it go through growth and back again. But you're able to, with confidence, say, these are the values that I can say survived the test of time. And so it's almost like they'll have their chapter, but it's like as the first. And it's so important, and I say this because many of us are involved in the first, and the first is responsible for proving what it takes to last. And so as like Alan looks back and he was like, what was it all worth? It was all worth the fact that I can prove that these values last the test of time. Right? You know, success is not as difficult as many people think. And that's part of the problem. It's part of the problem. Part of the problem. The hardest thing about being successful is committing to being committed, right?
That's it. That's it.
Once you know, that's what we give a Pastor Paul. I will not quit, therefore I cannot be defeated, right? He was just trying to get us to understand something simple, because whatever. But yeah, I believe that's something that I just would add to Alan, right? That it's like, man, you know, I know he looks back and he's like, yeah, what I'm about to be able to pass is going to be sustainable. And so that's worth the peaks and the valleys I'm experiencing to know that I'll be able to, with confidence, say, this works.
Exactly.
And that's man, the evidence is there. And so, man, just hats off to you and everything that's going on in Envision. And, you know, we know you're just getting started. So we can't wait to see what else, you know, God has in store for you.
Yes, sir.
And we're glad to have this kind of evidence again, because we know our business owners, our leaders are locked in and really receiving everything that God's having. But to have proof, to have evidence, to have people who are walking it out, you know, that's what gives us that confidence we need in the face of those challenges, to know that, no, God has called us. He wants to use everything in us because he's called us to be built to last. So thank you so much for spending time with us, man. Pastor Brian, always. Pastor Lamar, thank you. And thank you guys for being here with us this week. To Death Do His Part Summer Series isn't over yet, so stay tuned to Revealing Truth Ministries. Again, send us your feedback. Drop a comment in the chat. Let us know what you're getting from the message, and we always want to have some special guests here to share with us, and it might be you next week. So we'll see you on the next episode of the Blueprint Leadership Podcast.